What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to this episode of Custom with Vic. For today's episode, we get another custom for Devin Booker. This time we get a pair of size 14 Kentucky Dunk highs. For those of you who don't know, before Devin Booker got drafted by the Phoenix Suns, he played for Kentucky University, so this custom just makes sense all around. He also loves dunks. We're gonna be turning this dunk into a 1985 player-exclusive Kentucky Dunk high. This custom's fully inspired by Foxtrot uniform. He also went ahead and sent me this care package that contains all this awesome stuff that's gonna move my custom to the next level, but I'll show you guys that later. So without further ado, let's get it started. This is gonna be a real sick project. The original pair of these came out back in '85 and they're super rare, a real unicorn. The only time they ever released was in the Kansas University bookstore. It also originally had the word Cats on the back, a really sick WildCats tongue label, and it originally had a different sole. It had the Nike Air Train sole. But for this one, we're gonna stay with the Dunk sole because that's what we have to work with. So without further ado, let's remove these laces. To get it started, we're gonna go straight to painting. We're gonna hit up all the edges around the blue leather using a small angular brush and light gray paint to start giving it that vintage feel. Good to go hitting up all the edges. This took a really long time. It's a very subtle detail, but it'll add to the look once it's all fully done. Now we're gonna move on to the sock liners. On any original 1985 Kentucky Jordan 1 or Kentucky Dunk highs, the blue sock liner turns into a purplish tone. That's because of the UV rays and of the shoe being 30 plus years old. The trick to recreating that look is just to hit the top portion of the sock liners. The way that the sock liners turn that color is because of UV rays. It really just hits the top portion where it's exposed. The inside area stays blue. Big shout out to you, Gabriel, for helping me out with this step. There's some more information that I'll get to in just a bit once we get past this step. Good to go with the sock liners. As you can see, this is the before and the after. There's a big difference. This really gives it that 85 feel. The texture's still there. It feels like the original. These are gonna look really sick once we lace it up with some Foxtrot Kentucky faded laces to complement the sock liners. Now we're gonna move on to these toe boxes. Right now the toe boxes are a bit bulky. We gotta make them a bit more sleeker. For this, we're gonna be using the iron method. We're gonna stuff the toe box with some towels, place a wet rag over the toe box, and reshape the toe box using an iron. Toe box is complete. That looks a lot better. Now we're gonna move on to the exciting details about this project. Over here, we got our Foxbox care package. Big shout out to Foxtrot Uniform for sending us over. Let's go ahead and pop this open to check out the goodies. First things first, we got our cream and sail sneaker stainers. These come in super clutch for aging up the midsoles. Next, we got these really cool WildCat Nike labels. These are gonna go on the tongues to replace the old ones. These are exactly like the original. Mass 72 Works created these and they came out fantastic. Unfortunately, these are friends and family, not for sale. Next, we got our cat stencils. These are gonna go right in the back of the shoe. Now let's get into the laces. We got our oatmeal and Kentucky fadeaway laces. The Kentucky ones is probably the one I'm gonna go with. They match perfectly the sock liner. And lastly, we got all these different Yo Fox tongue labels. He pretty much sent over every single color he has. They're really dope. I'll use these for future custom projects. Again, big thank you to you, Fox. This project wouldn't be possible without all this stuff. Now let's go ahead and get started with the stencil. We're gonna grab our cat stencil. We're gonna lay it down in the back. But first, we're gonna prep this area using rubbing alcohol and cotton balls. This looks really sick. I love how the cat looks off that blue panel. I also went ahead using an X-Acto knife and distressed some areas just so the paint job didn't look too fresh for this 85 custom. Now we're gonna go ahead and jump over to these tongues. For the tongues, before we can lay down our new labels, we gotta remove the old Nike tongue label. We're also gonna go ahead and remove the stitching from this flap. I'll explain to you guys why I'm gonna do that in just a bit. We'll be using a seam ripper and an X-Acto knife. Old tongue label is off. Before we can move on to the new one, we gotta age this tongue. First, we're gonna grab our sail sneaker stainer. We're gonna hit up all the edges. Once that's done, the color's gonna be a bit too vibrant. We're gonna have to dilute that. We'll be using rubbing alcohol and cotton balls to wash out all that color to give it more of that natural aged look. Binding is complete, the color looks nice and subtle. Now we gotta take care of the rest of the tongue. Right now it's a bit too white. We're gonna tone it down using some cream paint. We'll also be mixing it with some water. The reason why I used water for the sock liner and tongue is so it won't change the texture of the material. Tongue is perfectly aged. Before we move on to the tongue label, we gotta do the exact same thing. We're gonna age it a bit more using the stainer once again and alcohol. This looks clean. The color of the label matches the aging of the tongue. Before we could go in and stitch this onto the tongue, we gotta go in and lay down a stitch line right on top. Once we're good with that, we'll come back, stick this on here and lay down 2 stitch lines on the machine. WildCats labels in place, the stitching came out really clean. I love using that machine. The last thing we gotta do to wrap up this tongue is to take care of this piece right here. On the original 85s, the laces go through the foam of the tongues. I could go do that using an X-Acto knife by creating 2 little slits. The problem with that though is the previous stitch holes look pretty bad. So the next best thing I could do is by adding some foam to this little lace loop. We'll be using Pelon foam, some sneaker stainer to age this piece, and some double-sided tape to stick it on there. tongue is fully complete. The foam and the yellowing really makes this look like an 85 tongue. I'm stoked with how this is looking. Now let's keep it moving to this back piece of the shoe. On all 85 dunks, similar to Jordan 1s, the leather starts to peel on this back piece. I think it's a vinyl that they use on the shoe. We're gonna try our best to recreate that effect using an X-Acto knife. The idea is just to hit the top layer of the leather to give it that peeling effect. Good to go shredding up the leather using the X-Acto knife. Now to fully give it that look, we gotta paint it. Underneath the peeling, we're gonna touch it up with some brown paint. Everything else is gonna get a nice cream tone. All done with this back piece, the effect really looks like an 85 dunk. This was a trick taught to me by Mass72 Works. Now the next thing we're gonna move on to is the soles. For this part, we're gonna be using the Sail Sneaker Stainer from Fox. We're gonna hit up the entire sole to give it that vintage look. Afterwards, we're gonna perfect the look using some alcohol pads. Midsoles are complete. This is the perfect shade of yellow that I was trying to achieve. The last step we gotta do before we wrap the shoe up is to hit up all the edges of the midsole with a little bit of brown paint. This is to recreate the glue marks from the OG shoes. All shoes after 30+ years, the glue marks start to turn into this brown orangey color. That's exactly what we're gonna do with these dunks. For this, I mixed up a little bit of brown and caramel paint. We're gonna hit up all the edges with a little detail brush. Glue stains are on point. It really gives it that perfect look. Now the last thing we gotta do is lace it up with some Foxtrot fadeaway Kentucky laces to finish up this 85 look.
What's going on, Reshoot Nation? We are back with a crazy sneaker giveaway. We are teaming up with our friends over at Many World Sneaker Boutique to give you guys a chance at winning an Air Jordan 1 Low Dior in a size 10. All you have to do to enter are 3 easy steps. You must sign up for Reshootinator's newsletter, you must follow manyworlds.az on Instagram, and you must comment down below your favorite part of today's video. That's it, guys. The giveaway runs all the way to the end of July, and we'll be announcing the winner on August 8th for Reshootinator Day. Good luck, and let's get back into today's video.
All right, guys, that is gonna bring us to an end on these custom 1985 Player Edition Kentucky Dunks. These really came out sick. It's all in the details with this project. Big shout out to Foxtrot Uniform. Big shout out to Mass72 Works for all the help and making this project possible. Now, let's get into the details. The very first step we did was hit up all the blue panels with a little bit of gray on the edges to start giving it that age feel. Then after that, we moved on to the sock liners. We dyed it that faded purplish tone because that's what happens to the sock liners after 30+ years. Then one of my favorite parts about this whole project were the tongues. We aged it properly, we added a little foam piece right in the middle, and of course, we added these really cool WildCat Nike labels from Foxtrot Uniform. On the back, we added this cat stencil with a little bit of distressing. On all 1985 Dunks and Jordan 1s, on the collar areas, the leather starts to peel. We gave it that same effect. I think I pulled it off. And lastly, we wrapped up this whole custom by moving on to the soles. We hit it up with the sneaker stainer to give it that vintage feel and hit up all the edges with a little bit of glue to wrap up the 1985 look. Again, you guys, this custom came out really sick. I really hope Devin Booker likes these and gets to wear these off the court. Remember, you guys, there are different ways on how to age a shoe. You can take it the direction where the shoe looks old and beat up, or you could do it this way where the shoe's aged but still dead stock looking. I hope you enjoyed this video, you guys. This is Vic Almighty. I'll catch you guys next Monday. Peace.